Hey, hello there, friends. It's Jimmy Maverick. Welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Football Counselors Podcast. We are going to be talking today about the top 12 rookie players for Dynasty. So we're going to look at Dynasty value and where I think these guys should go in the first round of your rookie drafts. Obviously, when we're talking about rookies and Dynasty, you're looking at more long-term. What is their overall situation? Will it improve over time? Things to that nature. So before I get into this, I just want to mention that this we're going to assume here single quarterback leagues, not super flex. If it is super flex, we would have to boost up all the quarterbacks. And I do only have 4 of the top 6 quarterbacks in the top 12. Obviously, Michael Penix. And I also put Bo Nix as second-round players in my rankings. But let's get to it. Let's just talk about it here. So we're going to do a countdown. We're going to do this countdown style, like American Top 40. We'll start with number 12. Coming in at number 12, we've got Mr. Ladd McConkey of the Los Angeles Chargers. Certainly, this is a fantastic situation for McConkey. He comes in, he's got a great quarterback in Justin Herbert, and he basically has no target competition. Now, we know that the Chargers are going to be a run-first offense. That has become very obvious by what they did during the draft and in the pre-draft selection, and also getting rid of all of their receivers. So, Ladd's going into a really good situation here where he will be the primary target. And it's not going to be high volume or anything, but we know we've got a good quarterback throwing passes to him. So he should be very effective. And so I feel really good about putting him here at number 12. I think he is very much undervalued on the draft board right now. So I like grabbing him in all of your drafts. I think he is a very positive player with a lot of upside. That even if he does moderately well this year and becomes like a wide receiver 2, I think it's going to exceed everybody's expectations, and he's going to positively return on draft value. And next year, he will be more valuable for Dynasty. So he's my number 12. So moving on to number 11, we are going to go with Keon Coleman of the Buffalo Bills. And I do very much like Keon Coleman, and I think I might even want to place him higher. But, there's just other players that I have in front of him. But we know this is a situation where Josh Allen was very excited about getting Keon Coleman. And obviously this is to replace Stephon Diggs. He's coming in as basically the effective wide receiver 1. Again, a real bargain on the draft board and redraft, but I think he is absolutely worth a first-round pick here. And I could see moving him up. Again, I was just having a real tough time with all the quarterbacks, and I'm like, I don't know. I would probably move this guy up a few spaces if it was up to me, but we know how important the quarterback position is in Dynasty, and that you have to have a good roster of quarterbacks, and we've got a lot of good potential quarterbacks coming in this year, so you got to account for that. So number 10 is going to be my first quarterback, and that is going to be Drake May, who was selected by the New England Patriots. And again, my big issue with Drake May is not necessarily him, it's the team that's built around him. And right now there is a real lack of playmakers. We'll see if any of the rookie wide receivers turn into anything, but this team is filled with a lot of Jags, Demario Douglas and blah, blah, blah. Nobody really exciting. Ramondre Stevenson is probably the best offensive asset on this team. That's really saying something about the lack of talent on this team. So I'm not super excited about Drake May, but I think he's an important component because it is Dynasty, and there is a chance that this team could develop, that one of these rookie wide receivers that they took could emerge. We'll have to wait and see. But for right now, just the talent of the team and Drake May himself, he is my number 10. So number 9 is going to be Jonathan Brooks, who was drafted by the Carolina Panthers. And Jonathan Brooks was the first running back selected in the draft. He is coming off of that ACL tear, which he suffered in November of last year. That's his biggest negative right now. I've got no doubt that he's a very talented player. He's going to be an effective player once he comes back full strength. But I don't like drafting injured players coming off a major season-ending injury. I don't like to draft those kind of players for redraft. And even though in Dynasty you're talking longer term, and I think Jonathan Brooks will be an outstanding option for next year, for 2025, that's what makes me put him at number 9 here. And the whole thing with Dynasty, right, is that you want to have players that will increase in value from this season to next season. And I think Jonathan Brooks definitely fits the bill for that. So even if he doesn't do that much this year, maybe if he only plays half the games, he only comes in midway through the season, or he's worked in, obviously he's in a committee there. There's other players that are in that backfield right now that have played effectively. I see him being eased into this offense. He's slow start, that sort of thing. But for Dynasty, he's great because he's going to be more valuable next year, and he will be a higher draft pick, barring any sort of setbacks, which I hope there are not. Number 8 is my only other running back in the top 12, and that would be Trey Benson, who was drafted by the Arizona Cardinals, obviously going into an outstanding situation. I really like what the Arizona Cardinals have done with their offense. They've really got some really nice pieces established, and he's going into a backfield where his main competition, James Conner, is 29 years old this year, is playing at age 29, which is definitely could be a cliff dive kind of season for him. We see this happen all the time. We saw it happen last season with Austin Eckler. So certainly that could happen this year to James Conner. It certainly is in the realm of possibilities, and I would want to have Trey Benson in there again as a longer-term play as well. For this year, his value might be limited, but next year I think he is going to be the starter on this team, the primary back, and that makes him very valuable. All right, moving up to number 7, I've got J.J. McCarthy, and you might be surprised that I have McCarthy ranked ahead of May. Obviously, based on draft order, that was not how they went in the draft, but J.J. McCarthy goes into a much better offensive situation than what Drake May is going into. So he's going into a team which already has Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson. There's already very, very good playmakers around him, and so he should be able to be productive right off the bat, and I think that's very positive. Now, J.J. McCarthy, one of my big things against him is that he never was a high-volume passing quarterback. He was never really asked to win games. Michigan was a run-first team. Obviously, it's Harbaugh now on the Chargers. So I think that's what you're going to see in L.A. this year. But we'll see. And if he can, which he should be able to with the talents around him, that makes him my number 3 quarterback for Dynasty. So there's that. Now, moving into the top 6 here, my next player is Brian Thomas Jr., who was drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he is clearly being drafted in as the wide receiver 1, which is very exciting. You also have Christian Kirk, and you got Gabe Davis. They did release Zay, so that's no longer competition for targets. I do anticipate Brian Thomas getting north of 120 targets this year, which is very, very good. I like him for redraft, and I like him for for Dynasty. Now, the biggest risk with Brian Thomas Jr. is in regards to the quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, who I am out on personally. They did not pick up his 5th-year option. So this is a do-or-die year for Trevor Lawrence. If he doesn't do it this year, the guy's becoming a backup, a failed quarterback, and a guy that you're not going to want for your fantasy team. I don't like drafting him this year either because of the risk associated with him and the fact that I do think he's like a Marcus Mariota. That's like the kind of player that he is, and that's what he's going to be in the NFL. He'll be a backup somewhere once he loses the starting job in Jacksonville. So that is a potential risk. What's Jacksonville going to do next year for a quarterback situation? So that could hurt Brian Thomas long term. But for this year, I think it's fine. And who knows? maybe Lawrence puts together a great season, and then he gets his contract extension, and then we're set with these guys. But that's where I have Brian Thomas right now. Next up is at number 5, Rome Odunze, who, again, is going into a great situation. He is going in with the top quarterback rookie prospect in Caleb Williams into an offense that should be very high-powered, lots of talent around him. Now, this year, I see his value as being very much suppressed. I think his ceiling is going to be about what Jackson Smith and Jigba did last year at the Seattle Seahawks. So because there's just so much target competition, you got Keenan Allen, who I consider the 1. You also got DJ Moore, who is also a 1, but will fall this year. As there's, we're asking a rookie quarterback to feed 3 primary wide receivers. It's very difficult. He could struggle this year. You've got it. But in Dynasty, when you think about what is his opportunity next year, first of all, he's coming in with a rookie quarterback. So these two are going to be paired together for at least 4 years. Actually 5 years right now because they both had the 5th-year option. Keenan Allen is an older wide receiver who I expect is only going to be at Chicago for this year. He's kind of a bridge wide receiver. And then once he leaves, then he moves up to at least being the wide receiver 2, but he could be the wide receiver 1 on this team. It depends on what sort of a relationship these two form together. I'm excited to see what happens, but he is my number 5 player for Dynasty Rookies this year. Moving into the top 4, we got Malik Nabers, and Malik Nabers going into a great situation for him. He is going in as the de facto wide receiver 1 for the New York Giants, and that is valuable. This team has not had a real wide receiver 1 since OBJ left the team, and so this is great that the team finally has that. They didn't address the quarterback situation, so they are going to stick with Daniel Jones, and this will be the first time that Daniel Jones has had himself an elite wide receiver 1, so that should help Daniel Jones as well. And, the rest of the receivers on this team are just a bunch of Jags or just a bunch of other guys, so but this is a great situation for him, great situation long-term. You've got an elite locked-in wide receiver 1 here, and I think he's going to do great. He's going to exceed expectations, and I hope that he finally turns Daniel Jones into a serviceable quarterback, which we have not seen yet. Okay, moving into the top 3. These are not very surprising, but the order might be. So my number 3 is Jaden Daniels. And obviously, of the quarterbacks, I think Jaden Daniels is the most ready to go this year for fantasy football. And I would draft him as my QB2. He is going in the QB2 range. The Caleb Williams is going in he's going at like number 12 right now, but Jaden Daniels is going at like number 18 or 19, and I totally would take the upside of that for redraft leagues. But also, you got to think he's coming in, again, number 2 pick overall. This dude has 4 years to prove himself in Washington. There are good assets around him, not great, not like what Chicago has, not like what but a number of other teams have. But he does have decent assets around him. He's got his rushing skills, which are very valuable for fantasy football. I really like him as the number 3 overall. And would I take him over Caleb Williams? I don't think I can do that just because of you look at the team that they have built around Caleb Williams, and it's so much better. But that's not saying that Washington has bad assets around him. He is surrounded by talented players and playmakers, so he should be effective and he should be good for fantasy. And I think as far as fantasy points goes, he might be able to beat Caleb Williams for fantasy points this year just because of the rushing upside. So we'll have to see what happens with that. But my number 2 is Caleb Williams. So I did not go Caleb Williams as my number 1 overall. Remember, we are talking about single quarterback dynasty leagues. And obviously, Caleb Williams is very valuable. I've got him as the number 2 player that should be selected in drafts. And hopefully, if you are picking at number 2, your opponent will take Caleb Williams first, so you can get my number 1 player, who you already know who it is. But Caleb Williams, again, fantastic situation. We talked about it with Rome Odunze. Just great, elite fantasy assets around him. So he should be effective by default. Plus, I think he's a good player anyway. Again, they call him Little Patrick Mahomes with some of his skills. I'm excited to see what he does this year. Potential he could break the Chicago passing record for a quarterback. I think it's very possible with this team they've assembled around him, but we'll have to see. But I think Caleb Williams is going to be fantastic. Obviously, a great elite long-term play. I'm a believer in the player, so he is my number 2. And number 1, of course, you already know. You've already figured it out. Process of elimination. Who's my number 1? Well, man, it is Marvin Harrison Jr. This dude goes into the best situation for a wide receiver. Again, there is no real target competition in Arizona. They got rid of Hollywood Brown. They got rid of Rondale Moore. He comes in. He is the elite number 1. I expect him to receive the most targets of any of the rookie wide receivers this year. And he's got a good quarterback. I mean, Kyler Murray, although he is injury prone, he is good. He is a good passer. He is effective. We have seen him be a quarterback 1 for fantasy football. And I think if he can stay healthy, which is an if, but if he can keep himself healthy, then I think he will be fantastic for Marvin Harrison. This is a great pairing. There is really good talent around on the Arizona team. You got Trey McBride, you got Trey Benson, and you got Marvin Harrison. Kyler Murray's going to thrive in this situation. This is the most talent he's had around him in a while. And so I think it's just a great situation for him. His long-term prospects are absolutely fantastic. So again, he is my number 1 overall for Dynasty single quarterback leagues. And again, if we're talking about Dynasty Superflex leagues or Dynasty 2 quarterback leagues, you'd have to move up all the quarterbacks, and that would move him down a bit, but I don't think it would move him past maybe 3. He would still be number 3 overall in a 2 quarterback league. Now, there are some notable players that I think are very good, but I think are second-round players. You got guys like Bo Nix, Michael Penix, Blake Corum, Xavier Worthy. These are guys that I think will fall to the second round in rookie drafts, and I think they're great. Obviously, Xavier Worthy is a player I'm very excited about as well. I just couldn't squeeze him into the top 12 because of the quarterback situation. But normally, I think in most years, Xavier Worthy would be a late first-round pick. But I like I said, he's probably a 13 or a 14 on my list. That's where he is right now. But anyway, so that's my top 12 list. What do you guys think? Leave some comments down below. Let me know. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe. Thank you very much, guys, and I will talk to you soon.